Okay, so now I'm recording, and I have no idea what happened on Blab, but the first version of Shift Ed apparently ended 11 minutes ago and got locked up. So hopefully people will make their way over here. We'll see what happens. Hey, Derek, welcome to it. Well, I have no idea. Hold on one second, guys. Hey, Stacey. I started a new Blab that seems to be working much better. It's recording. So if you're still in the room with Jill, come on over to the new Shift Ed Blab for tonight. For people hopping in the room, if you could tweet this out, that would be great. We don't need the GIF. But let's try Shift Ed again. There we go. Telling little birds. Awesome. I feel bad because I refreshed my page and it said this Blab ended 11 minutes ago. But Jill, Stacey, and I had been talking for much longer than 11 minutes. So I don't know what room they're in. Hopefully they will catch up and come over here. That's the plan. It's always awkward when you're about to welcome somebody to the room and then they disappear. Uh-oh. We just lost others. Yeah. That happens. Maybe Dan is going back into that room that doesn't exist to let people know. But unfortunately, this probably means that Shift Ed will be dead for today. Which stinks because we were having a really great conversation with Stacey Lindes and myself and Jill Dobrowanski, two fantastic ladies in the world of education. Derek, if you want, hop on in. We can chat as hopefully people come on over here. I see your little purple dot in Utah. Man, I tell you, once you get on Blab, man, this thing, once it starts rolling, whew, there's no stopping the adrenaline and the energy that you get from being on here.
Well, hello there, Nesi.
Hello, sir. Real quick, welcome, Kathleen. How you doing, Derek?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing well. You look good.
I'm doing okay. Tuesday night.
Yeah. Winston, welcome back. Hawaii Principal of the Year.
Oh, really?
Slightly jealous of Hawaii, let alone Principal of the Year.
Hey, you picked Jersey, dude. You got the shore, though.
I do.
So I thought you were going to move off on Tuesday. What happened?
We didn't.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it move again, but we had said we'd come back in 2 weeks and do Tuesday again.
Okay.
So,
oh, has it been 2 weeks?
Yeah, we didn't do it last week.
Holy cow. Time flies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I figured the next time we do this, it'll be March 1st. How about that?
Geez, that's scary.
I'll be done with my 2 grad courses and hopefully well on my way to being a certified supervisor here in the state of New Jersey.
How much more do you have left for that?
2 weeks.
That's it? That's it?
I'm taking 2 leadership courses in 8 weeks. So very exciting.
Yeah, I would say.
So those 2 courses combined with my master's in curriculum and instruction will give me what I need. So I got to submit the transcripts to the state, and they can issue the license.
Yeah. So
yes,
did
Dan.
you? Sorry, go ahead.
No, Dan Gallagher asked if I was going to Rowan, which would be yes.
Perfect. So let me ask you. So do you have to do administrative hours, like internship stuff, with your in Jersey?
With these two courses, one class has a 25-hour field component.
25. That's it.
8 weeks. That's tough. 25 over 16 weeks would be. That's it.
Wow. In Utah, I have to get 125 every semester.
Well, not that is that going for like, I'm just going for the supervisor cert. If I was going for principal, there would be many more hours.
Oh, they're not the same thing?
No, because you can separate it. I'm not going
really?
for qualification. I'm just doing supervisor, and that's where I'm stopping for now.
Okay. I see. And I thought it was basically the same as the administrative endorsement. But it's different then, huh?
I guess in Jersey.
That's interesting. Yeah, because in Utah, it's, at least from my understanding, it's the administrative endorsement, and so you go through and it's basically good for anything supervisory K-12. So I'll end up doing close to 500 hours of internships when I finish with my last internship next fall.
Oh, Kathleen. I was about to click yes. You can call in. We're a friendly program. So, Derek, you like fondue?
I do like me some fondue, man. That was hilarious. I'm listening. I'm like, wait a second. That's our tradition, too. Except we have our kids involved, so our kids enjoy some fondue with us.
Yeah, no, we did it after they went to bed.
Oh, there you go. Fantastic. That makes it even better. That would have been better. We planned to do a cheese fondue and a chocolate fondue, but decided that we would stop at just the cheese for this time. We'll do chocolate later.
You did yourself a disservice, Derek.
Well, when you have 3 young children all at the same time, it made it not nearly as relaxing as if it were just me and the missus by the fire, as happened in the Nesi household.
True.
Excellent. So what's new in Jersey?
Not that much. I was going to say, I'll pitch our topic for Shift Ed to you, which was causing a disruption in education, the good kind, but from the bottom up.
That's interesting. That's interesting because I actually had a principal friend from Northern Utah come down and visit my classroom last week. Every year in Utah, at least, they have 2 principal academies, big conference things that they do, one in the spring, one in the fall. And in the spring, one's always held in St. George because it's, beautiful weather. We were at like 70 degrees today. I mean, just amazing, nicely warm, wonderful. Not like you poor East Coast folks. But he came down for it, and he brought in a sphere onto my classroom and just kind of let it loose for like the last 15 minutes of class, 20 minutes of class, and the kids went straight up bonkers.
Was it a regular Sphero or a BB-8 Sphero?
It was just the standard Sphero. I was a little bit bummed. I'm like, dude, no BB-8. He's like, they are so far on back order. These were just like the Sphero 2s, or they were. I guess it took him almost 3 weeks to get his 4. So he's like, I couldn't even handle doing the BB-8s. So he ordered a bunch for school, and it was just fun stuff. So he was a nice disruptor, if you will.
How do you disrupt?
How do I disrupt? So one of the things I like to do is I like to try new stuff and fail miserably. And I tell my kids that fail means first attempt in learning or frequent attempts in learning, and that they are my guinea pigs. And so we will do stuff throughout the year that is new to them, and it's even new to me. And so we just kind of go with it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, that's also good too, because we've tried something new and we've attempted something. And sometimes what we have to do is just kind of go back through and adjust and regroup and retry and we eventually get some good stuff out of it. And if we don't, well, at least we've had a learning experience.
I say that's very valuable.
I think so.
My favorite thing to say to kids is, I don't know.
Say it. Go ahead.
No, I said one of my favorite things to say to kids is, I don't know. And it's okay to not know, but what's not okay is not being able to explore and discover and try and solve that problem or find the answer to that question. So you have to encourage that and instill that. You have to model it.
It's powerful. I mean, it really is. I tell my kids all the time, I say, if I make a mistake, tell me, but do it politely. I mean, don't just like come out and like rip my head off. I said, just like with you guys, when you guys are making mistakes, I'm not jumping. I don't rip your heads off, but we'll correct the mistake and we'll move on. And I would like to say that most of the things I do at the board are intentional mistakes. I do actually make some intentional mistakes, but most of them are straight up, they're gone, and this just doesn't work like that. And it's awesome because like they're picking up on stuff and they're seeing that, yeah, there's no worry there. Very empowering.
Very empowering.
Can you hear my son singing?
I wasn't going to jump right to singing, but I said I did hear a little Larson in the background.
Okay, I'll be right in, buddy. I would show you, but I think he's running around partially naked, and that would be a problem. That would be problematic for the ratings.
Derek, but not that kind of show.
Not that kind of show.
The old mute and yell at your children. So big thank you to Kathleen and AJ and Dan, Winston for following us over here to the second blab. We do apologize for the failure of the first blab. I wish Stacey and Jill, it's been a long day. I wish Stacey and Jill were able to follow us over. I don't know where they are, so I do apologize. For those who are new to what we're doing here with Shift Ed, it's basically a place to have positive conversation, to kind of maybe tackle some of the questions or issues that we're having in education, but instead of bitching about them, coming up with some real practical conversation and solutions. And it's not your next door neighbor's Twitter chat. So we encourage questions in the sidebar. We encourage people to click call in and to share stories, ask questions. This conversation is participant driven as opposed to a high school class on a Monday morning.
Oh, like you sound like you've been there before, Nesi. What's up with that?
Or you know what? The professor Nesi side of me is dealing with that with college kids on a Monday night.
Oh, but your classes are always Monday night though, right?
It's always on Monday, 7:40 to 9. And I actually at one point said to them yesterday, I think you're taking the definition of lecture too seriously. I don't want to stand up here and talk at you for an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh. So what age are they? What age are these? Are they like freshmen? Are they sophomore? Is it mixed? Junior, seniors?
They range from sophomore through college senior.
Okay.
No true freshmen. No red shirts.
Okay.
But it's fun because I am certainly, as a college professor now, disrupting higher education.
I mean, you're breaking all kinds of molds there.
I brought cheesecake to class last night. It was great.
Yes. But did they have to participate before they got the cheesecake?
I didn't care. I needed to get rid of the cheesecake.
Oh, see, no, you have to hold that over their head. Like, all right, I'm going to go ahead. I actually had a professor who would keep track of how many comments we'd make. And that sounds awful at first. But at the same time, do you do that? You do it on paper. And it was part of our grade. If we didn't make 3 comments per class period, our grade suffered. And
I do not have time to sit there and do tick marks on a piece of paper to count how many times you talk.
Come on, man. You could do it, Nesi.
Wait, the sad part is not only does that happen at the college level, that probably happens in K-12 classrooms as well. In fact, we know it does. You have teachers who are counting their popsicle sticks from the random selection jar.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I mean, I know I use Class Dojo for participation stuff, and I'll do the random calling, and I'll award participation points. But it doesn't come back to bite them. I mean, it's just a matter. It's just more of how can I keep track of, where are we at, what's going on, and it helps to keep me honest and making sure that, I'm not letting my underneath biases come out and pick the same couple of kids every time. So I love Dojo for that. Even if nothing else, that randomizer is fantastic.
Absolutely. But do you find that it's time consuming to be using? I like the app. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But do you ever find it time consuming to be ticking off and tapping for the participation points if that's how you're using it?
There are definitely some days where I use it more than others. I'll be honest there. I mean, like today, I didn't even open it up. Didn't even go with it. But other days, it's a constant, like throughout the day. It just depends on where I'm at with what's going on and what I'm teaching. Different subjects lend itself more. I mean, being a K-5 teacher, I'm fifth grade teacher. I teach everything. My kids are with me all day long, every day, except for library for 30 minutes a week, PE specialist for like 50 minutes a week, and a computer lab for 30 minutes a week. They're me for everything. So.
So Dan had actually just shared that he, in his role as a technology resource specialist, tries to get into Google Classrooms as much as possible. So what I want to know, Dan, is do you go in as a student or do you go in as a teacher in the Google Classroom? And Derek, are you is your school a Google school or what are you guys doing?
So my district is a GAFE district, but we don't use Google Classroom. What's actually happened is on the district level, they've gone, at least K-5 has focused on Schoology, but where I'm not a one-to-one, and I'm like a 4 devices for 30 kids, basically. I don't do a lot with any of those LMS type things. I mainly keep it to other stuff we're working with. So I wanted to go in and try it. I think some of our secondary schools are using Canvas, which I think Canvas plays better versus Schoology for secondary, from what I've seen, but I think definitely it could work out for either way. Google Classroom does sound really interesting. I've been in a class for Google Classroom, but I've not taught one.
I'm playing it with it now in my district. It's the first year of being Google app, and I actually started with the Wired Wednesdays. I started Google Classroom for that, and so I'm taking the opportunity to learn how to use it from the teacher side, but also teaching teachers how to use it because now they're using it as students, whereas in their
fantastic
role, they're using it as teachers as well. Hey, Stacey, thanks for catching
up. You started a new room?
The old one, when I said continue on, ladies, and I refreshed it, it came up as the blab had ended 11 minutes prior to that.
That's so weird. Jill and I carried on this whole lovely conversation. She's a gem.
I'm so sorry. Is she going to follow us?
I didn't even know. I actually closed out of the blab window because I couldn't stop the recording. I couldn't get out of the hangout. I couldn't kick you out. And when I closed the window, my tweet deck was open, and Derek had invited me to the new blab room.
Who's in the mystery box?
What?
I love the mystery box. I'm gonna guess you're referring to me.
Hey, stranger.
Down there.
Hello.
La la la.
What's going down, everybody? I heard Google Classroom, so I came in. You don't understand what I just dealt with putting my boys to bed.
Yeah, well, we had a stink bug in our house, so that caused craziness.
Those are your kids, Stacey.
What?
Nah.
Are your kids still awake, AJ?
Mine is. He's hanging out naked on the floor right now playing Lego.
At least you got a 3-hour difference there. Oh, no. Yeah, here it is.
That's okay, Derek. It's 6:15 in Utah.
Sitting there, just looking at the wall.
It's 7:15, yo.
I was going to say, he does have a 3-hour difference.
I'm Mountain Time. I'm not Pacific.
Right. You're Utah. Forgot.
Colton has been in bed since 6. Miles has been in bed since 7.
6 o'clock. Dang, dude. What time does your kid wake up? What time do they wake up in the morning?
6.
Wow. 6 p.m. That's amazing.
I want to go to sleep at 6 p.m.
Seriously.
And then I can do fun stuff like this because Caitlin goes to bed at 8.
The wifey goes to bed at 8? Wow. Early to bed in the Nesi household.
No, I've got a good 2.5 hours ahead of me.
Well, no, not you, but everybody else in your household.
That's how I get 2.5 hours.
Wow.
I'm leaving in a minute.
Kudos on the Wonder Woman t-shirt.
What's that?
Kudos on the Wonder Woman shirt.
Thank you. I wore it to school today with my Wonder Woman sneakers as I carried around my Wonder Woman notebook.
Prop.
You need a Wonder Woman pen now, Stacey.
Oh, they make one, and I saw it at Five Below, and I was like, I should get this. And I was like, I don't need any more pens. And who knows, it probably writes like crap.
What? What did you say? You don't need any more pens? Have I not trained you yet?
Five Below, it's a piece of crap.
Oh, okay. But you can modify pens. You can put a different refill probably in it, and then it'll work nice.
If I go back and it's still there, it was meant to be mine. Otherwise, it's done.
All right. I don't know what Five Below is. We don't have those out here, so.
You get the idea. $5 and lower.
Everything's $5.
Is that what it is? Got it.
It's crap.
Got it.
Do you have Dunkin' Donuts, Derek?
Not in St. George. Up in northern Utah, they do, but they don't have them in southern Utah.
I thought America ran on Dunkin'.
The East Coast runs on Dunkin'.
Apparently, it's mostly East Coast and a few other sporadic spots. We don't really have a good donut store here in St. George.
Dunkin' Donuts is not good donuts.
But it's still donuts. I mean, we have like Walmart and like grocery store. That's our donuts right there.
You poor man. Right. But Dunkin' Donut point, there's a girlfriend of mine from college. She, not romantically, but a girl who's a friend, just to clarify.
Oh, sure.
She moved to California after graduation. Only, I'd say maybe in 2010 in LA did they get their first Dunkin' Donuts.
I think it's an East Coast. Yeah, I think it's definitely an East Coast thing.
Everything's in the East Coast. All the good stuff.
On the internet, they say America runs on Dunkin' for the fact that most people haven't heard of Wawa.
Wawa's awesome.
What's Wawa?
Best convenience store in the entire world.
We don't even have. We finally have a 7-Eleven again in Southern Utah because they were bought out by Maverick, which is another gas chain. It's a gas chain.
Huh.
What's out here?
What's that?
What's the price of unleaded?
I haven't filled up for a little bit. I want to say like $1.75, $1.80.
Okay, similar.
Not too great, not too awful though. Not too bad. Wawa. So it's just a convenience store?
They sell gas there too at some of them. They just opened a Super Wawa on my way to work. Super excited.
And they have the best pretzels.
Ew, I don't eat food from there. I just get ice cream and gas. And coffee and hot chocolate. Yes, yeah. Dan, and the made-to-order items. I will go to the deli.
Jordan.
What's the matter, big guy?
Well, you have a talking monitor, AJ. Check that out.
Us and our fang-dangled East Coast technology.
I've got one of those. Those are fantastic. They scare my kid, though.
They didn't exist.
Oh, God.
All right, gentlemen, I am going to bed. Peggy and Dan, thanks for following us into this other room. I will see you all hear you all on Vox in the morning. We will chat another time. Derek, it was good seeing you.
Good to see you, Stacey. A chat and a blab. Always nice.
Nice. Bye, guys.
Good night.
Good night, Stace.
It's okay, Peggy. I don't think the last session ever really existed.
So, oh my God. I'll be right back.
AJ's gone just like that. It didn't record. That's interesting.
Well, we're recording this mess. No.
Just not the originally planned one that was probably excellent.
So, Eric, since we are recording, I see you have your USET shirt on. So why don't you share about, for posterity's sake, steak is good too. Where's your content online? How can people connect across this pod as we promote it?
Perfect. Yeah. So I am online. I'm known as Lars 3EB, LARS, the number 3 letters EB, as in Third Eye Blind. You find me pretty much anywhere. You actually can now even go to lars3eb.net, which just kicks you over to an about.me page right now. But we'll see if I move it somewhere else. I write online very infrequently over at edtechbabble.net.
Not babbling going on there.
Not a lot of babbling going on, but I bought the domain specifically because I thought there might be some additional podcasting possibilities down the line. So we'll see if I can ever make that happen.
The EdTech Babblecast?
EdTech Babblecast. Ooh, that would be pretty fantastic. I'm okay with a Babblecast.
Yeah, you keep talking. When are you going to hit record?
I know. I need to just push the button, Nesi. I think I have fear. I have fear of recording. My son has made an eye out of Legos. Don't worry. He's a genius. He's 3. Good job, buddy.
Literacy plus.
That's right. Okay. Let's see. I teach school in Washington County. I'm in Southern Utah. I serve on the USET board, which is the ISTE affiliate for Utah. So that's kind of a fun thing. And just got back from England. It was kind of fun.
Talk about that. That was exciting.
It was amazing. I was able to go and participate in the DigSit Summit that Mary Alice Curran, what is her Twitter handle? MBFX, I want to say. MBFXC or something like that. Mm-hmm. And we went over and we talked about digital citizenship over in the UK, and it was amazing. We were in Bournemouth, which is on the southwest coast, and we had people from all over the world. In a sense, we had a guy who came over from Singapore. We had a mother who came up from Spain, from Barcelona. A mother-daughter team that came over from Ireland. Sarah, the teacher, was there. Sarah Thomas came over from the DC area, and Mary Alice Curran and her son came over from Boston. So it was just, and we had a couple other people as well. It was just really great. It was fantastic.
What was the best? Oh, sorry, not the best. What was the most valuable takeaway for you from the whole experience?
I think what was really valuable was just the idea of what the DigSit Summit stands for. A lot of times, when you're talking digital citizenship, you have just one voice being heard, either just kids, just schools, maybe you might have just parents involved. But the idea behind this that Mary Alice has set up is that everybody has an equal voice. We had business people there. We had parent groups there. We had taken care of. We had a student come over, named Timmy Sullivan. He came over and he spoke on what it means to be a good digital citizen, and the fact that there's so much good to be had online, not just the negative. And it was absolutely incredible, the fact of how amazing this nice group, this very wide-ranging group was. We started the whole event with a student panel where we had Timmy. He came over from the U.S. and we had 2 UK folks that were 2 ladies from the UK. One was a PhD student and one had just graduated with her master's degree. And it was absolutely fabulous to see what was going on there, and the fact that they all have these different type voices, but yet how real and how appropriate it is to make sure we're getting the good, not just the negative.
And Peggy was called.
So it was called the Digital Citizenship Summit. I just dropped the hashtag in there. If you do a search for Digital Summit UK on Twitter, you should still be able to find a number of the pieces. It was an all-day event on January 23rd at Bournemouth University, and it was great. We had Craig Kemp. He actually called in and attended virtually, presented virtually from. He was in Singapore, but he's from New Zealand, and it was a great event from the get-go. Just interesting to see how different businesses are dealing with it. Barclays is doing some incredible things with helping people who have never been on the internet to kind of overcome their fears of working online. Obviously, they have their ulterior motives of banking online, but just getting them online and teaching people how to use the internet. Some of these older people that have never used a computer even. And it was really, really cool to see the fact that people are so excited and how they can get so very excited for something that really should be more of a bigger deal. Oftentimes we think digital citizenship and it's like an add-on to a lesson. Oh, don't do this, don't do that. And how often do we talk about, all of the good that comes from it?
And what you just said there, that's usually how it starts. Don't do this, or it's let's point out all the problems and the negatives instead of just modeling. I think that's the way it's done. More modeling of things to do. And if there is a problem, obviously, point it out, correct it, and promote the right way, quote unquote, the right way to use a lot of these tools. But I definitely think too many people take the approach of, we got to tell kids what they're doing wrong, but what are we doing to show them what they can do and should be doing right?
Well, so somebody brought up the point and they said, what would it be like to learn how to drive a car in the same way that we're taught how to be online? Well, first off, you'd be in an auditorium. You'd have somebody up top talking at you. Don't do this, going over all the negatives, and then maybe hitting a couple of, okay, here's where you want to go here, you want to go here. And then, boom, you're done. You have a license. How would that be for driver's ed? No actual practice.
Or, hey, we're going to learn to swim, but we're going to lay on the floor of the gym and practice the breaststroke.
Exactly.
Got to get in the pool.
Well, and the thing is, my big thing is, we use school for teaching of so many other topics. What better place to try new things and to fail miserably and then to learn how to correct that mistake? Because there's nothing wrong. I mean, nowhere does it say that these people should be perfect on social media. I know adults that social media awful and are awful online, and yet it's totally nobody says anything about it. But yet, kids, man, they get up in arms that kids want to do this or that, and it's like, no, let's just practice it safely.
Or not even so much safely, but responsibly, and realizing that what you put out, it's out there. Snapchat, or if you start to see more young people coming on here,
Well, there's gonna be a place to practice, and what better place than a school to go out there to learn the good, the bad, and the ugly, and to say, okay, how do we make this appropriate, and how do we see the good in it? Timmy Sullivan, his whole session was all about, it's like, I dare you to Google me. Go out and Google Timmy Sullivan, TimmySullivan. You're gonna find this kid he's a model citizen. I mean, the guy is amazing. He's actually in the final. He's in the final running to win the Coca-Cola scholarship, and it was an absolute honor to actually meet that kid face to face and have a discussion with him. Because if that's where the youth is headed, we will be in a good place. Unfortunately, he is not the norm. He's very much the exception to many rules.
Oh, absolutely. And even last night, talking with the kids at Rutgers in the class, which again is leadership in a digital context. So we were talking about what quality should a digital leader have. And I had asked them at one point, how many of you are on Twitter? How many of you would consider yourself connected? Or in what social media platforms do they find popular. So again, talking to college age kids, anywhere between 17 and 28, they're not connected. There is a big gap in how using social media, and lost on them is the power that it has. Enter me, and over the semester, I'm going to get them out of their comfort zones and show them, based on my experience as an educator using these platforms, how they can leverage them in their careers, whether it's public relations, finance, marketing, PR. The conversations are out there. And if they're not on social media, how can you as a young person bring that content to the platform?
Exactly. Well, and I think it's interesting, there are so many kids that, like you said, are not there, that are not doing it. But we got to get them out there. Peggy George, are you participating in Digital Learning Day tomorrow? How about it, Chris? You taking part in that?
Not in my current role, but I'm sure between midnight tonight and midnight tomorrow, I will consume content digitally and learn something.
What are you making?
My goal every day. And at some point, I pass that on to kids.
Yeah. So I've looked in a little bit with Digital Learning Day, but I've not done a whole bunch. I need to look some more in tonight, see if I can fit some stuff in tomorrow. And I think they've got activities planned and whatnot, but I do not have anything currently set.
Now we're in trouble.
Hi guys, I'm just interested. I'm listening to your conversation and kind of going back a step to what you were talking about with taking the opportunity for students to explore the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think the biggest fear is allowing them to experience the bad and the ugly part of it without just us telling them what the bad and the ugly part of putting yourself out there 100% in maybe not the perfect situations could be. And so I guess my question to both of you is, how would you suggest that we as educators leverage that to see, how do we allow students to experience the positives that go along with everything, which is kind of what you were just talking about, Chris, but sometimes also the negatives that could exist within the fact of being 100% connected all the time and putting everything out there?
I think with any positive lesson that kids have learned since the dawn of time, they will learn the positive aspect of whatever we're talking about or whatever they're being taught. They'll pick that up. But from my own experience, the negative, the downsides of life, and again, just speaking for myself, I learned a lot of lessons the hard way, my parents would tell me things repeatedly as a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old. And they would tell me, don't do this, be aware of this. And I wasn't, or it didn't affect me until somebody else said it to me, whether it was a teacher or another adult, where, the lesson didn't sink in from my parents. But I think with the kids, and I like the way Derek had put it was, and you're asking straight out, how can schools actually allow kids to really experience failure, not getting an F, but to stumble and fall in our care while they're under our charge? To me, I think that does come from the top, because you do face, ultimately any superintendent, their main goal is don't get sued, right? When it comes down to it, you don't want to put your school district in a bad situation where it's going to cost the taxpayers money and things like that. Those are tough things to overcome. So I don't have an exact plan. If I did, I wouldn't be sitting here on Blab.
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit different for generations, Chris. And I think part of that is that, when we experienced failure or we experienced hard lessons to learn, it was kind of protected within the confines of the situation of which it occurred or things of that nature. And with today's, digital media and the fact that everything is put out there, I think kind of that's where I was going more with the question is that, when you're talking about social media or how much do you put yourself out there or how much of your failures do you put out there? Because, we teach kids every day what you put out there could be out there forever. And I think that's kind of where I was going with it, is that it's not a matter of them failing, and I agree wholeheartedly in that, we have to teach kids, the whole, test and fail and predict and reevaluate situations. But how do you do it when it's in such, it has the potential to be such a permanent failure that could have ramifications, essentially.
So one thing I like to do with my kids is we practice. We have a class Twitter account. We now have a class Instagram account. Thank you, Instagram, for finally allowing multiple sign-ons. Oh my gosh, like how long did that take? My heck. So they announced it on Monday. I set up my account last Monday, the same day. I'm like, okay, now we're going to do this now. I wasn't about to switch the game. But we practice, we do like paper tweeting. And the kids have to practice. What's appropriate? What's going on here? What's the best way to do these kinds of things? And it gives them a chance to, in a very, very hyper local situation, see what it's like, and what happens when somebody says things that maybe aren't the best, and how do we handle that? And we role play. I mean, I teach fifth graders, so it's a little bit different, but I look at it in the sense that my job is to train them so that the next year when they go to the intermediate school, so in my district we have K-5, 6, 7. 8, 9 is a new building, and then 10, 12 is the high school. And I want to make sure that when they leave the elementary, they have a decent understanding of, okay, here's where we're starting, here's how we move it over. And I think it's just a matter of going out and trying it. And then when we get past the paper, we can move over and we can do the real Twitter, the real Instagram, and they can see what happens.
Well, it was weird. In talking to the kids at Rutgers last night about social media, I had asked them, what do you think is the most popular social media platform? And there were some options. Some people said Facebook, some people said Twitter, some people said Instagram. And there was one girl, when they talked about Facebook, she said, I don't think Facebook is really that popular anymore because, well, my family ruined it for me. I need to have a place where I can go and post stuff that they're not going to see. So I stopped it, and I'm smiling, and I say to the girl, I said, so what you're telling me, you need to move all your illicit online activity from one platform to a new platform to try and stay ahead of the game. And she was like, yeah.
Yeah.
But then I'd also conveyed to them, Google yourself, Google your name. I said, odds are, because when I got the roster, I Googled all your names and didn't find anything. But for some of you, you may be fortunate to have the same name as a wedding photographer or some ill-fated rap star on SoundCloud. Own your name, own the space, put your digital footprint. And I told her, I was like, put a footprint out there, be a presence, own your name, own yourself, own your space. It comes down to personal branding. So Derek, you're promoting some basic skills in fifth grade. And here I am working with, early 20s young people who still don't have a clue and don't even yet embrace it.
Well, and see, the problem is, why don't your 20-something kids have the background? Because it was so naughty and bad. Don't do this. We can't do this in school. This is not appropriate. I mean, think about like the filters. The filters are just barely coming down in some districts. Some districts, I couldn't get on Twitter 2 years ago in my district. 2-3 years ago, it was blocked in my district. Facebook, the same thing. And my tech director has been fighting for years to say, quit the blocking of these things. Let's open it up and let's teach them how to use it. And I think that's what we need to do, because the thing is, if they can't get on the device, on the Wi-Fi, they're going to click off the Wi-Fi and go on their data and boom, there they are. You can get past anything, just clicking over your data. And at that point, we're now doing them a disservice because they've not learned anything more than, here's how I get around the problem. Here's how I hide the problem, rather than just dealing with it head on.
Or God forbid you work in a place where cell phones are put away for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, that's happening in some places too. But I mean, even within, yeah, it's just awful. It's like, come on, let's. These kids are bringing hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of devices into buildings, and we're telling them to lock them up. Why are we providing a device when some of these kids already have it? Let's go BYOD and open those doors in all sincerity.
Yeah, but I also think too, Derek, it is about having those conversations and kind of tying what Chris was just saying before in about, okay, what is new and what is upcoming and what are the kids using now? Like, having a conversation with a fifth grader about, or even a sixth and seventh grader about Snapchat and how can we use that, or Periscope. How can we use those tools to the best of our ability? It's almost like we are constantly 2 steps behind where the kids are. So we need to also not be afraid to have those conversations with the kids and allow them to bring the new technology into our classrooms and adapt the way that we teach in a way that we're utilizing those tools, but still also teaching them the responsibility of what goes along with it.
No, I think you're exactly right. That's a huge point.
So with that, Joe, when is the C&I department going to get their Snapchat account?
Hey, you never know. It could be before year's end.
So let me ask: Did either of you take part in the Safer Internet Day last week?
There are so many.
Tuesday.
I can't keep track of all that stuff. I know today is Tuesday.
So last Tuesday they had Safer Internet Day, and it's a global thing. But then they did Safer Internet US, and they actually Carrie Gallagher, Carrie Hawk 02. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. She actually was in charge of an event that happened in LA at Universal Studios Hollywood, and it was about with this idea of digital citizenship. And they brought in students from the LA Unified School District, and they did a live event, but then they live streamed it, and anybody could take part in it. If you go to saferinternetday.org, I believe, even now, you can go find a link to that live stream, and you can watch it back. And it was absolutely amazing. It was incredible. They had a panel of students that were current high school and middle school, and I think one of them was a college student, about how they're making the internet a safer place. And again, it's not safe internet, it's safer, because we can never truly make it safe. We can do our best to make it safer. And they had Mike the Miz, the wrestler dude that was on The Real World back in the, forever ago. And that guy's incredible. I mean, hearing his story, I'm a Mike the Miz fan. I don't even like wrestling, but I'm a fan. I mean, he's got my vote. He's amazing. So go check that out, because some of those things you were talking about were there, because then they had a whole nother event that was a question and answering session where they basically gave questions to tables of kids and said, you solve this problem, and then come back and share it. And I did that in my own classroom, but I left out the one question that dealt with sexting, because I felt like as fifth graders, that was a little much for my fifth graders. But everything else, they were fine. I gave them the exact question that the older kids had, and they killed it. I mean, we had 5 of the 7 at that point, and they just did a great job. So go look at it, go see how you can use some of that stuff, because I think there's a lot of good pieces there.
That's great. Thanks so much for that, Derek. It was interesting because I just happened to pop into one of my elementary classrooms today in the tech lab, and it was my first graders, and they were learning, online lessons via Moser about internet safety, and they were telling me all the do's and don'ts about it, and, something like this where I could just totally bring it home and make it into, a quick lesson or unit of study for those kids within that setting, I think would be the perfect tool for some of my teachers.
Yeah, it makes your life. I know Common Sense Media has some of those kind of things as well, some of those lessons. Yeah. and I know there are many other organizations that are trying to create lessons. I know in Utah we use NetSmarts. We have an organization called NetSmarts that I think they're all over the nation, but I'm not positive. That they've come in and they've done great assemblies for our elementary kids that we've broken at K3, K2, and then 3-5, and it makes it really nice for them to have those opportunities to kind of see, how do we get our feet wet in this idea.
That's great. Sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I'm sending out a couple of tweets.
I see that. I think we need to challenge P. George to jump in this conversation.
It's a futile effort, Jill. She has camera issues, but that's okay. She's the best. Next time never comes, Peggy. We know that. I love her to death. She's awesome in the chat box. I think she's got 3 hands and like 15 fingers.
That can be very hot. That comes in very handy when typing.
Oh, I see that as a challenge there, Mr. Nesi.
Well, Chris, I appreciate letting me jump in here. I'm gonna duck out because I've got kids that need to get. I got a kid that needs to get a bath and he needs to get to go to bed. He's not hanging around naked playing Lego. But I appreciate it.
Those are some of my best memories as a child.
But when Mom gets home in about a half an hour, she's gonna want him not naked playing Lego. When it's just Dad home, I'm like,
she's not,
dude. She's not. That's true.
9 minutes.
But she'll kick my butt. No, my wife's amazing. She puts up with all my crazy ideas, and she's very supportive. So, heck, she kept the kids for 8-9 days while I was in England. So I can't complain. She's super supportive.
I'm the king of my castle when my wife's not around.
That's exactly the case right there.
And knowing your wife, that's even questionable.
I can do whatever I want when I'm good and ready to sleep on the couch.
Exactly.
Fantastic. All right, folks, you guys have a good night. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Jill.
Bye, Derek.
See you, buddy.
See ya.
And then there were 2.
I know. And Peggy in the sidelines.
Yeah. Except in Arizona, and you and I are probably like 20 miles apart.
Exactly. But it's interesting, we really need to ignite this conversation about internet safety and what it means for the next generation. And, it's no longer just, just putting something out, via a Facebook. It's, now you've got all these different new medias. And I think we really, as educators, really need to engage students a little bit more in the conversations and educate them, along with them, using their input.
I agree. I mean, I think so often our greatest stakeholder are the students and the children. And how often are they actually consulted or asked about something?
Yeah, and it's a shame that, we still don't value their voice in learning. And it's interesting. I was just having these conversations over these past couple weeks with educators, different educators, about almost like this 5th learning style, so much to say, where that, we've always learned about the auditory and the kinesthetic and the visual learner and then the blended learner. But now we almost have this 5th portion of a tech learner. And what does that really mean for these digital natives? Because they really are natives, because they're born into this world. And how are we going to engage them and then allow them to experience education differently?
And I think when you consider it like a fifth, it's not even, I don't think it would be a fifth separate learning style so much as it's a new component in each learning style that already exists. There's got to be that digital piece.
Correct. And, maybe that's where it goes. But, I was just kind of, like I said, it was just conversations that I was having, and I was just kind of trying to frame and the role that technology plays within it. And so maybe it is true. Maybe it is, we revisit what we currently know and say, okay, what role does tech have in this?
And I think the role is still relevant, although I don't know if you see the same articles I do that have the headlines, "There's no place for technology in education. Is technology really helping kids learn?" And those are the articles that are disheartening. Not because it's my passion, but like, really, come on, it's 2016.
Yeah, that, and I've read a few over the past couple of weeks about just reducing screen time, because it's it could cause different connections between neurons in the brain, and it's these students are connected in ways that we can't even imagine, because we're not. And it's just, maybe it is a different rewiring of the way that students learn. I'm sorry, I was just reading that side note from Peggy. A different way of, thinking about how we approach learning. And it really is no longer just kind of, letting the students have conversations among themselves and in-depth research and being able to use those tools. But okay, now how can we take what we know and improve upon it, and not fall stagnant, where that devices, in a lot of places, devices are still used for consumption, and it's limited production, and that's no longer the case, and we really need to take that next step to move past that.
Actually, when you talk about devices more for consumption, I'm very excited and interested to see what's going to happen where I'm currently at, as 55 Chromebook carts are arriving like over this current month period, over this month. And I've had a lot of people now coming to me saying, "All right, Chris, I'm going to have a cart with Chromebooks in my room all the time. So we're basically one-to-one. What do I do with them? What can I do with them?" So I've been talking more about, all right, here's how you can kind of change your instruction. Here's how you can change your delivery. But now here are some great sites and resources where you can now have your kids doing more. Because I'm telling these same teachers who have complained about, "Oh, the laptops we had don't work. They suck, blah, 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 whatever." Now you have it. Now there's no excuse, because they're going to be brand new. They're going to be shiny. They're going to work. Now, time to stop complaining. Time to start doing.
Yeah, and it really goes to giving them the tools that they're going to need in order to do it. But it's also about a shift in, mindset and approach to teaching, that, what, you can learn a lot from the kids too. Talk to the kids. How would you use this? What are you using this for? What can you teach me? And really starting to shift those conversations of no longer being the expert on anything and everything, but now allowing you to become that student within your classroom.
Oh, absolutely. I think that even speaks to kind of what we learn at ed camps, where, don't walk into the room thinking you're the smartest person, or, oh, that person over there is the smartest person in the room, but it's everybody together that makes the room smart. That's an attitude that needs to be conveyed to kids.
Exactly.
That helps with, the climate and culture of one's classroom, where that really makes it a safe place to learn. And as Derek was talking about, you can fail, you can get up, and you can keep going.
Yeah, and I think, part of that is moving away from that, I don't have all the answers. And, I may need to rely upon somebody else within the room, like you said, with that ed camp model, to give me the answer. And that person may be an 11-year-old kid. So what?
Kids say the darndest things, and sometimes they're really intelligent.
Correct.
Or you figure what Glenn Robbins is doing in his school. I mean, dear God, he's taking the universe by storm at the middle school level. You know, ed camp periods and giving kids the opportunity to really test the theory of if kids didn't have to go to if kids had the choice to go to your class, would they?
Yeah, but then also being able to then provide that opportunity for teachers. I know recently he's been kind of bringing that now up into, you know, what I've also been working on in that PD model of creating that ed camp type of style for your staff and empowering them to, you know, teach their colleagues and have those enriched, you know, in-depth conversations within a small, quick time frame where you're not just in one room for 3 hours. And it's really a more of, okay, let's do a quick hit and run, and then we can move on and learn and grow.
Actually, in my school, we had, this is the first year where they added 2 additional PD days during the year. So we had one in January a couple weeks ago. And then they had the gall to send out a survey to get feedback on the day, which was great. So I'm sarcastic. And I didn't hesitate or blink twice to, in the additional comments, say, I was really discouraged by the sit and get, here's what you're going to learn for 5 hours PD model. And I readily wrote, we should be exploring something like Ed Camp and give us choice on what we want to learn and empower our people to become leaders and teach what they're good at and what they're passionate about. And I hit submit, so we'll see where it goes.
That's good for you. At least you had the bravery to put it in writing.
It was anonymous, but anybody who knows me would say, oh, we know.
I know who that is. We're having this whole side conversation about coding on the chat on the side.
That's the beauty of backpedaling. Check with is here, okay.
Yes, I did, Peggy.
She's funny. One multitasker.
It's funny. I was talking earlier with Stacey, and we were talking about, you know, the challenge last time.
Whole conversation.
We did. It was great. About, you know, the challenge that you guys put forth last time to everyone, and to, you know, kind of thank someone, and starting that ripple of just being able to, you know, take something that you did or saw, and to say, you know what, hey, thank you so much for doing that. We acknowledge what you did. And I was talking about the past couple weeks experience that I've had, where that I, you know, was kind of wearing a dual hat in my district, where that I was serving my director of curriculum position, but then also I had to take responsibility for one of my K-5 buildings because the principal had to unexpectedly go out. And so I was in the building every day serving as the principal also. And so prior to leaving, I just thanked everybody because, you know, we were able to form those strong relationships and bonds. And, you know, I was able to make some small changes within the building to just kind of create a much more positive environment for kids, and much more kid-centric environment. And so, you know, I sent them a handwritten note just to say thank you for doing what you did. And now the relationships that I've now built with them is now giving me the ability, as somebody who's a district level administrator, to know who I can then tap into to start these little ripples in the near future. So I guess my question to you is, you know, how did you live up to the challenge that AJ and Stacey, and I think you were part of that also, put out there?
After that, I made a point to say thank you to the teacher who her classroom neighbors mine. She's a inclusion English teacher, and there are some days where, I mean, in my role, I want to pull what little hair I have left out, but in her role, I see her running around in circles in the hallway, and she's come to some of the tech things I've done. So I just took the time to thank her and a couple of other teachers for taking time to listen and participate in some of the things I'm putting out in the Wired Wednesday Google Classroom that I run. So I use that as a forum to say, you know, thank you for participating, and, you know, and then look for feedback like, what more can I do for you? How can I continue to serve you? So they appreciated that, and they said, we'd like to learn more about X. So I'm able to now shape what I want to do and what future conversations I want to have. And it all started with a thank you. Oh,
that's great. I'm interested now. You've piqued my interest, as you so easily do. So a Wired Wednesday Google Classroom. Tell me a little bit more about that. Is that like just with staff, or what is the goal of that?
You broke up a little bit, but I think I got the gist of the question. So Wired Wednesday physically is on Wednesday mornings from, it doesn't matter the time, but it's 15 minutes, quick hitter PD, where either I'll recommend a tool, a tip. It's like a live House of Ed Tech recommendation. And people show up to my room, or actually now I'm doing some morning library duty. So teachers come in and they can actually meet with me any day of the week during that time. And the Google Classroom part is where I can just kind of archive what I've talked about or share links and resources. And there are far more people in the Google Classroom than I've ever actually seen. You know, I see the same maybe 7 to 10 people who come and they have questions and they need that hands-on help. Whereas the Google Classroom has 75 people in it, superintendent included, other district administrators, teachers from other buildings in the district, where they see my links, they see the conversation, and I'm trying to promote maybe what I'm already doing on Twitter, but kind of creating a small bubble of it and trying to recreate that inside the district.
That's awesome. I'm just furiously taking notes here on the side because it will be happening. I'm taking that. I'm telling you that right now.
And it works. It's a great, and then using Chrome, like I'll use the Share to Classroom plugin. So if I find an article, I can quick, create the announcement. Or the other way that I use the Google Classroom, because Google is new to the district that I'm in, I'm using Google Classroom as an opportunity to teach these teachers how to use Google Classroom, because they're all in the classroom in the student role. I'm in it as the teacher. So I'll create assignments and I'll ask them to do things tech related that have them use and interact with Google Classroom. And I'm upfront by saying, here's how we're using it here. You could turn around and do the same similar assignment in your math classroom, in your social studies, etc. So it's a double-edged friendly sword.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, I know that we've talked that that's how we've slowly eased into it in the past year, where that myself and my department, we held these PD sessions and book clubs within via the Google Classroom environment in order to get teachers to just kind of embrace it. And those teachers now are the ones that are starting the ripples within their buildings as we've moved to the full Google Apps for Education environment. And that's really helpful.
One thing that I would like to do that you may have more success doing would be to add the Google Hangout component to the classroom. Because I actually just saw something, I think in the last 2 weeks, that Alice Keeler had put out about how to put a link to a permanent Hangout in the resources area of your Google Classroom. So you could have one Google Hangout set up that you could do virtual office hours or conduct that virtual meeting, and you don't have to re-invite people to a Hangout. They could just keep going to that same Hangout when they need to. So you're not creating a virtual face-to-face meeting space. Or you could use a tool like this.
Yeah, I like this tool, but I saw that idea definitely, and I did pass that on to some of my teachers who are using that right now. She is great with what she puts out there. And it's nice the way that they continually to adapt the current environments that we're working within to connect them and to really think about how educators can use them.
Yeah, the other big thing that teachers have really taken to with Google, as I guess we're shifting to Google, I don't know, the calendar feature and setting up appointments. I was able to, the previous 2 years, I was maintaining the signups for laptop carts and computer labs in the building via Google spreadsheet, where it was publicly open. Anybody could go and sign up and fill the sheet in. And then this year being Google, I set up appointment slots. I have been hands off since September 10th or so, where people could just go in, book the computer lab, because I had to go in every 2 weeks and update the spreadsheet, make the spreadsheet available. So it was tedious. Now I set up a quick Google site. People are like, how do we set this up? I can see it, and they're just blown away. It's just a calendar. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And it's just, they just keep getting better.
And then
in
I
my
had blown
opinion.
away Adam Schoenbart from last week. He was talking about, he's big into scripting and how he does like the education calendar. So he got me into Formule. So I automated on that PD day in January for my principal. Oh, here's how we can auto generate the PD certificates. So, and then,
yes.
So he took that, and then a VP wound up coming to me and saying, what else can we automate with the Google form and the data? So I helped them revamp how to apply for fundraisers. So filling out the form, people get notified, and they get like a receipt back of what they've applied to do a fundraiser for. So I'm having fun.
That's what it's all about.
Got to have fun, because if you're not laughing, well, you're wasting time.
Yeah. All right, it's my bedtime.
No, I understand. Okay. I'm picking a good one.
Hey, 2 chats in one night? Come on, man.
And I'm so aggravated that the first one wasn't recorded, because it was good.
We did have a good conversation, not to just kind of throw props our way, but it's always great when Stacey and I are together. So, all right, Chris, thanks for letting me jump in.
Who knows when it could get released? Plug where we can find your content, how people can connect with you.
Oh, as always on Twitter at Mrs. D122 or via my website, curriculummatters1m.wordpress.com.
Awesome. For everybody who's not at Shift Ed, Stacey, Dani, Adam, AJ, Chrissy, I'm Chris Nesi. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Nesi. Website is chrisnesi.com. I also host the House of Ed Tech. Thank you for joining us for Shift Ed. And we will be back on March 1st. Same Blab time, same Blab channel. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.